Hello everyone, welcome to my class. Today this is Salin here. Today we'll be dealing the next topic, that is respiratory arrest or insufficiency. So respiratory arrest or insufficiency, as the name arrest means, there is stop in the breathing. So respiratory main function is to take in oxygen and leave out carbon dioxide. So this function is being stopped, and insufficiency is there is a dysfunction in the respiratory system so that they cannot maintain the function of oxygenation to the lungs or eliminating the carbon dioxide. So when the lungs are not oxygenated, the blood also will not receive the oxygenation, because from the alveoli and the capillaries, the diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide is not taking place. Because of that, the system, that is the organs, are not getting oxygen. Mainly if the brain doesn't receive oxygen more than 3 minutes, the brain cell starts dying. So likewise, slowly all the organs start dying and they can go to a multi-organ failure in case of respiratory arrest or insufficiency. The other term given for respiratory insufficiency is respiratory failure. So that means it is a syndrome where the respiratory system fails in one or more of its gas exchange. So the main function of respiratory system is to take in oxygen, and when the oxygen is going into the alveoli, the capillaries from the heart, that is pulmonary capillaries, they all have deoxygenated blood. So the carbon dioxide from the deoxygenated blood is diffused into the alveoli, and the oxygen which is present in the alveoli during inspiration is diffused into the pulmonary capillaries, and the blood gets oxygenated, and through pulmonary veins they enter the heart and go for circulation. So whereas, and the carbon dioxide which is present in the alveoli will be exhaled outside or eliminated through expiration. Whereas in case of respiratory function, either oxygenation or carbon dioxide elimination, or both oxygenation and carbon dioxide elimination function of the respiratory system will be lost. So that is called respiratory failure. Coming to the causes of respiratory arrest or failure, it may be due to an airway obstruction. So airway obstruction can be either an upper airway obstruction or a lower airway obstruction. So in upper airway obstruction, it can be in infants due to nasal block. So less than 3 months infants, they are nasal breathers. So if any block occurs, then they will go for respiratory arrest because oxygen cannot enter inside through the nose. And in case of children and also adults, there can be foreign body obstruction in airway passage. This is accidental swallowing of any coins, buttons, or any foreign objects. The person can accidentally swallow, and this can block the respiratory passage. And next is edema of the pharynx and the larynx. So edema of pharynx and larynx is any abnormal accumulation of fluid in this area. Again, when there is accumulation of fluid, it becomes like a swelling and it will obstruct the air passage. Next, it can be tumors of the oral cavity or any laryngeal tumors. So any tumors, again they are abnormal growth of tissue which will obstruct the air passage, and it can be due to any head and neck injuries. So during head and neck injuries, the person is falling down, or he can get bleeding, or accidentally he can swallow something due to unconsciousness. During head and neck injury, nerves are injured and patient will go for unconsciousness. This will cause accidental swallowing of any objects, and it can obstruct the respiratory tract, and it can also be due to tongue fallback in unconscious patients. So mainly unconscious patient, they go for a sleep apnea or apnea. That is, when they are sleeping, the tongue will fall back because there is muscle tone of the tongue is lost, so the tongue will fall back and it can close the respiratory tract. So these are the causes of upper airway obstruction. Then coming to the conditions that cause lower airway obstruction. So first is bronchospasm. So bronchospasm is involuntary constriction of the bronchus. So this is the due to any infection, inflammation, or any neuromuscular disorders, anything, the bronchial walls will become constricted because of that oxygen cannot enter inside, nor carbon dioxide can leave outside the lungs. So patient will go for obstruction and fail respiratory arrest. And drowning. So drowning is a condition where accidentally a person is falling in the water like in rivers, ponds, pools, etc. So accidentally in beaches, when the person is playing, he can fall into the water. So while falling inside the water, the lung is filled with fluid or water from the river, and thereby person will not be able to breathe. So there will be obstruction. And pneumonia is inflammation of lung parenchyma. So this is an infectious disease of the lungs where the lung parenchyma is going for inflammation, and because of that fibrosis occurs, and there is more no space for the ventilation to occur. Next is pulmonary edema. So it is accumulation of fluid in the lungs. It can occur because of any congestion in the heart or any pleural effusion where the fluid, more excess fluid due to hydrostatic pressure, they come into the lungs. So this also cause lower airway obstruction. And pulmonary hemorrhage, so like edema, there is bleeding here. So bleeding can occur during any procedures in the thoracic cavity, or like surgery or any interventional procedures, or it can be due to a tumor in the lungs. Okay, so these all can cause hemorrhage. So again, hemorrhage means bleeding. Bleeding fills the lung, so it can cause lower airway obstruction, and thereby patient can go for respiratory arrest. And asthma. So asthma is a condition where the person's airways are inflamed. Inflamed means they are gone for swelling because, and there will be extra mucus which is obstructing the air passage. So mainly the bronchioles are being obstructed with this mucus, and thereby air cannot enter inside, and there will be trapping of carbon dioxide inside. And COPD, so it is a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease of the lungs. So here there is obstructive disease. So it consists of two main diseases like emphysema and chronic bronchitis. In emphysema, there is permanent dilatation of the bronchioles, but these bronchioles do not do the function because they lose their elasticity and they go for rupture. In chronic bronchitis, again there is inflammation which will, and fibrosis of the bronchus, where the bronchus will get obstructed and thereby airflow will not be there. So these are the conditions that can cause lower airway obstruction. Next, the CNS, that is central nervous system disorders, can also cause respiratory arrest because they reduce the respiratory effort. Okay, so whenever, so brain is the main organ that is controlling the functions of the body. So when the brain is affected, then the person can go for any problem with the respiration. So main condition is stroke. So in stroke, the blood supply to the brain is getting blocked due to some fibrous deposition or some platelet aggregation that happens inside the blood vessels that is circulating in the brain, and they can go for stroke. So because of that, brain tissue will not get oxygen and nutrients, and thereby it will die. So in this condition, the if the area where the lung is functioning, so mainly the respiratory center is medulla oblongata, when this center is affected, then the person can go for respiratory arrest. And next is brain tumor. So tumors are abnormal cells that will compress the brain tissue, and thereby again patient can go for arrest. The other CNS conditions, like when person is taking drugs like sedatives, hypnotics, alcohols, so these can again chemicals which can degenerate or destroy the nerve tissue, and when the nerves are damaged, then they will not do the function of the body. So respiratory function also will get stopped, and thereby patient can go for respiratory arrest. And metabolic disorders like hypoglycemia and hypotension. So glucose is needed for producing nutrients, etc. to the body, and hypotension is decreased. So hypoglycemia is decreased sugar, and hypotension is decreased blood pressure. So even the pressure and the glucose level should be normal in order that nerve tissue can function. So when these rates are low, again nerve tissue will get damaged and they do not do their function. So these CNS disorders can also cause respiratory arrest. Next is diseases that is causing respiratory muscle weakness. Okay, so respiratory muscles, they are intercostal diaphragmatic muscles. These muscles has to function normally so that inspiration expiration can take place and patient can have effective breathing. So in conditions like neuromuscular disease, so there are so many neuromuscular disease like myasthenia gravis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, some sclerotic diseases of the nerves. So there are so many diseases in neuromuscular disease. So where the the nerve neuromuscular junction is not functioning properly, because of that muscles are not able to do their respiratory function. And next is neuromuscular blocking agents. So during any anesthesia or any procedures like tracheostomy, intubation, so they give neuromuscular blocking agents. So these agents can also prevent they can also block the muscles, so there will be problem in respiration. And spinal cord injury. So respiratory function, the anatomic nervous system that is going through the spinal cord, the thoracic nerves, they help in the maintaining the respiratory function. So in case of spinal cord injury, the nerves are injured, so they will not do the respiratory function, so patient may go for respiratory arrest. Then the diseases that affects the lungs also can cause respiratory arrest. So these diseases are cystic fibrosis. So in cystic fibrosis is an autoimmune disorder where our own body immune system is attacking our own cells. So here the pulmonary fibrosis will occur. So where the fibrous deposition will be on the pulmonary tissue, that is lung tissue. So the lung tissue is not able to oxygen do the work of gas exchange. And next is pulmonary embolism. So embolism is a moving clot that is obstructing the pulmonary capillaries. So because of that, there is no enough blood coming to the alveoli. So when the alveoli are not receiving blood, they cannot do the gas exchange, and thereby oxygenation is not present. So patient goes for respiratory arrest. And the recent pandemic, that is COVID-19. So this is a coronavirus which is affecting which can enter the lungs, and they can cause fibrosis of the lung tissue, which again result in respiratory arrest. Conditions that causes respiratory arrest is problems in the spine. So that is scoliosis. Scoliosis is an abnormal curvature of the spine. So that is, you can see in the thoracic cavity there is a abnormal curvature. So this curvature of spine will compress the lung tissue. So there is no enough space for the lungs to do the function of breathing. So patient goes for respiratory arrest. And next is damage to the tissues and ribs around the lungs. Okay, so when there is any fracture, injury to the ribs and tissues, again there will be bleeding inside the lungs, and these ribs, broken bones of the ribs can also compress the lung tissue, and thereby patient can go for respiratory insufficiency. Next is inhalation injuries. So inhaling any smoke from fire or any noxious gases like any chemicals, if the person is in a closed room where there is a chemical or any chemical leakage. So when the person is inhaling these noxious gases, they can destroy the oxygenation of the lungs, and the oxygen will be replaced by some noxious gases. So patient can go for respiratory arrest. So these are the causes of respiratory arrest. Next we will see the pathophysiology of respiratory arrest or failure. So mainly any predisposing conditions, so like inhalation injuries, CNS disorders, anything which can cause obstruction in the airflow. So there is interference in the lung airflow. Airflow means the oxygen cannot enter inside the lungs, so this will cause obstruction. That means inside the obstruction is there, so air is not entering properly, so limited airflow to the lungs, so only little air is going, and there will be inadequate oxygen entering the alveoli. So alveoli is not getting proper oxygenation. So when there is limited airflow and oxygen is not entering the alveoli, and there is obstruction in the air passage, there can be two things happen. One is decreased oxygenation to the lungs. So when the oxygen is not entering the alveoli, then there won't be oxygen transport. Okay, that is impaired oxygen transport from alveoli to the pulmonary capillaries. So I said there should be transport of oxygen occurring, so this will be absent. So lack of oxygen in the blood, so patient will go for hypoxemic respiratory failure. Hypoxemia means decreased oxygen in the blood. So because there is no oxygen transport, there is decreased oxygen, so patient will go for hypoxemic respiratory failure. On the other hand, when there is obstruction, the carbon dioxide which is eliminated from the pulmonary capillaries to the alveoli, they are not exhaled or expirated outside because there is trapping of air due to obstruction. So all carbon dioxide will be trapped inside. Okay, so trapping of carbon dioxide within the alveoli due to airway obstruction. So there is ventilation perfusion mismatch. Mismatch means always the carbon dioxide has to move from the diffuse from capillaries to the alveoli, and oxygen from alveoli to the capillaries. But here mismatch will happen because there is no oxygen in the alveoli due to obstruction. Only carbon dioxide is there, so the only carbon dioxide will be mixing in the capillaries. So because of that, increased carbon dioxide will go in the blood, and this is called hypercapnic respiratory failure. Coming to the clinical manifestation of respiratory arrest or failure, so based on the problem, that is whether the blood is not oxygenated or blood carbon dioxide is increased. Okay, so based on that there will be signs and symptoms. So in case of hypoxemic respiratory failure, the person will show dyspnea. So dyspnea is difficulty in breathing. So again, because oxygen is not there in the lungs, they go for dyspnea. And tachypnea is rapid breathing or shallow respirations, like patient keeps on breathing faster or increased respiratory rate. And intercostal muscle retraction, that means the intercostal muscles on the ribs will be retract. So you can see the visible chest wall moving up and down, that is patient gasping for breath. And uses of accessory muscles for breathing, that the person will use the neck muscles also, and he will breathe very deeply, or very labor type of breathing will be there. And cyanosis is bluish discoloration of the skin. This is because there is decreased oxygen in the blood, the tissues are not getting oxygen. And agitation, disorientation, coma, this all when the oxygen is not perfusing the brain tissues. Okay, so when there is no oxygen in the coming to the heart, that is the pulmonary capillaries are not bringing oxygenated blood because alveoli is not transporting the oxygen, then the brain also will receive the deoxygenated, that is blood will be perfusing in the brain. So patient will go for agitation, means restlessness, disorientation means they are confused, coma is loss of consciousness, and tachycardia, increased heart rate, dysrhythmia means there is changes in the heart rhythm, and fatigue. This all because patient's heart also will try to beat faster and somehow increase the blood supply and maintain the cardiac output. So these are the signs you can see in case of hypoxemic respiratory failure. In hypercapnic respiratory failure, this is because there is increased carbon dioxide in the blood. So again patient will have dyspnea because there is no oxygen. So patient will have difficulty in breathing. And shallow respirations, again because there is no oxygen, the lung will beat faster but very slowly, that won't be effective breathing. And headache, disorientation, this all because carbon dioxide is getting accumulated more and more in the blood. So only carbon dioxide is going to the tissues. The patient will show headache and disorientation. And somnolence, always feeling of sleepiness. Okay, patient will say ha, and he will be keeping on sleeping. And tremors is like shaking in the body, like when you are overfeared will shake. Okay, some rigors or tremors, seizures means fits. This all will be seen because increased carbon dioxide going to the tissues, the body will show such signs and symptoms. And pursed lip breathing, so pursed lip is with closed lips, the person will breathe because no nasal, there is more trapping of air inside, the person will breathe slowly like this. So this is closed lip breathing or pursed lip breathing. Coming to the diagnostic findings of respiratory arrest, so first is ABG analysis. So in this they will take the arterial blood by feeling the pulse. They will take a small ml of blood and they will send it for investigation. So here patient will have decreased PaO2, that is hypoxemia, and the increased PaCO2, which means hypercapnic. And chest x-ray will reveal consolidation of the lungs, so they can see some patches here and there in the lungs and abnormalities in the lung shape and size. Okay, so when there is some tumors or any bleeding, any edema, so you can see all the changes in the chest x-ray. And pulse oximetry, so this will reveal the saturation of the person. So patient usually with respiratory failure will have saturation less than 90%. Next, a complete blood count will be done. So this will reveal hemoglobin is reduced and RBC levels are reduced in case of hemorrhage, that is bleeding. And the WBC count will be increased in case of any infection. And electrocardiogram, so whenever there is problem in the lungs, even the heart involvement will be there. So heart will strive to beat faster in order to increase the blood supply. So this can go for dysrhythmia. So dysrhythmia we can see using a electrocardiogram report. And then ventilation perfusion scan. So ventilation perfusion is to see the gas exchange between the alveoli and the capillaries. So whenever there is problem in the lungs or in the pulmonary capillaries like embolism, this ventilation and perfusion will not take place. So you can identify in the scan report. And pulmonary angiography, so through femoral vein, the catheter will be sent into the pulmonary vessels, and from there dye will be injected, and this will perfuse into the pulmonary capillaries, so you can see which area obstruction is there. And in case pressures are high, then with a monitor we can also measure the pressures in the pulmonary capillary and pulmonary arteries. And next is mixed venous oxygen saturation. So this should be always more than 70 to 75%, because here the person's blood is not getting oxygenated, so the venous blood is mixed with both oxygen and carbon dioxide. So at least the venous blood should maintain more than 70 to 75%, then only person body can get oxygenated. So in critical conditions we need to maintain the 70 to 75% of oxygenation in the blood, because only mixed venous blood will supply the tissues. So this is about the diagnostic findings of respiratory arrest. In management of respiratory arrest, first goal if management is clearing and opening the airway. So in clearing the airway, first step is we have to open the airway with proper head and neck positioning. Okay, so there is the head, tilt, chin lift and jaw thrust maneuvers we can do if the patient is not having any problem in the spine or spinal injury. And cervical spine should be stabilized with the cervical collar, or you should manually place the patient's head straight. And Helminch maneuver, so here this is done to dislodge the foreign body from the throat, so that is by thrusting the abdomen. They will give a pressure to the upper part of the throat, so that the foreign body can be coming out. So this maneuver has to be followed until the airway is clear. Next step is bag valve mask ventilation. So this is a self-inflating bag. Okay, that means there will be an ambu bag which will self-inflate, and this mask will this will be connected to a mask, which the mask will be fitted on the patient mouth and nose, and the other end will be connected to the oxygen supply, for which will provide 60 to 100% of oxygen. And this bag valve mask is a temporary procedure, so until patient mechanical ventilation is started, you can provide the bag mask ventilation for the patient. This bag valve mask ventilation is also used as a diagnostic tool in case of foreign body obstruction. The ampu bag will show some resistance while compressing, so you can identify that there is some foreign body obstruction. So it is also used as a diagnostic tool. Okay, next we have to use the airway patency devices to open the airway. So this can be a nasopharyngeal or a oropharyngeal airway. So nasopharyngeal airway is put in the nose and oropharyngeal airway is put in the mouth. So oropharyngeal airway, whenever we are using, we have to use correct size. So that is, we have to measure from the mouth to the earlobe, that is at the end of the mandible bone, and then we have to use. So incorrect sizes of airway can further increase the obstruction or worsen the condition. So airways mainly help in preventing the fallback of tongue in unconscious patient, or any tissue going accidentally obstructing the airway. The other measures of opening airway is endotracheal intubation. Here endotracheal tubes are inserted into the mouth or nose, and this tube contains of high volume and low pressure cuffs which are placed in position, and this will prevent leakage of air and also prevent aspiration of saliva or other particles into the respiratory tract. So it is a guaranteed mechanism for person who are comatose. Comatose means they are in coma stage, they cannot respond to environmental stimuli, or they don't have consciousness. So these patients, it is very good because we can prevent aspiration, and also it aids in ventilation, giving oxygen, and so inspiration expiration will be done by the mechanical ventilation, so it is like an artificial respiration for the patients. This is surgical management. Surgical management is a good option for patients with a massive obstruction in the upper airway, and also if there is a massive trauma. So, and if the foreign body is difficult to remove, then we can do a surgical therapy. So in surgical therapy there is tracheostomy. So in tracheostomy they make opening directly on the trachea, and the dilators will be inserted to dilate the opening, and then a tracheal tube is inserted into through the opening, and this directly sends the air into the trachea, and thereby it will oxygenate the lungs. So once tracheostomy is done, the patient will be connected to a mechanical ventilator or oxygen therapy for aiding in respiration. So whenever we are intubating the patient for oxygenation, so patient may feel pain and discomfort during the procedure. So these are the certain drugs we give during intubation. So first is lidocaine. So this is to suppress the sympathetic action during intubation. That is when we insert the laryngoscope, patient may get anxiety, and this will result in tachycardia and excess BP, etc. So to suppress the sympathetic function, we give lidocaine and atropine in case of bradycardia. So certain children, they have the vagovasal response where children can go for bradycardia. So in that cases we have to give atropine. And vecuronium is a neuromuscular blocking agent to prevent muscular fasciculation. So there can be twitching of muscles and spasm of the muscles during the procedures, so that there can be abnormal constriction in the muscles. So this can be prevented by giving vecuronium. And etomidate is a sedative and analgesic properties. So in order to prevent pain and also make the patient to sleep, we give etomidate. And thiopentanol and methoxytol is for sedation, so that patient may not feel anxiety. We have to make the patient to sleep, so they give sedation. After ventilation, intubation, once the patient is successfully able to do his own respiration, then we can come down with the ventilation. So that is one method called non-invasive positive pressure ventilation. That is, after removing the intubation for the patient, we can put the patient on these ventilators in order to aid in respiration. So here there will be a tight fitting mask which will cover the nose and mouth, and through this there will be spontaneous respiration or spontaneous oxygen will be administered for the patient. In non-invasive positive pressure ventilation, there are again two types. One is continuous positive airway pressure and bilevel positive airway pressure. In continuous positive airway pressure, so throughout the cycles of respiration, there is no additional inspiratory pressure given. So continuously, like a wave, the oxygen will be delivered through the tight fitting mask. Whereas in bilevel positive airway pressure, here both expiratory airway pressure and the inspiratory positive airway pressure will be maintained on the device. Okay, so in the device itself, the physician will set the number of expiratory and inspiratory pressure. So according to the pressure, the device will provide the ventilation. So these are the two methods of non-invasive positive pressure ventilation. Next, coming to the pharmacological treatment, so they give diuretics, furosemide and metolazone. This will cause excretion of excess fluid from tissues, thereby we can prevent pulmonary edema. And nitrates, nitroglycerin and sodium nitroprusside, this is cause vasodilation, and thereby they improve the circulation. So whenever the lungs are not oxygenating the blood, even the heart contractility will slow down. So in order to improve the vasodilation and circulation, they give nitrate. Next, analgesics are given, that is morphine sulfate. They will relieve the pain and also treat acute pulmonary edema. And inotropic agents like dopamine, noradrenaline, dobutamine, so they also will increase the cardiac contractility, and they are vasoactive elements which will help in maintaining the blood pressure. Continuing with pharmacological treatment, so we give bronchodilators like terbutaline, albuterol, theophylline. So these all will cause smooth muscle relaxation and they dilate the bronchus. And next, anticholinergics, they will mainly relieve the secretions or suppress the mucus production. So ipratropium bromide is given, so it has an antagonizing effect of acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is mainly a neuromuscular receptor which helps in increasing the secretion. So they will antagonize the effect of acetylcholine. And next, corticosteroids are given. This is methylprednisolone and hydrocortisone. So they treat inflammation of the airways, and also they are given in case of exacerbations of COPD and asthma. So that is suddenly if the patient is having exacerbation of these signs, like patient will have difficulty in breathing and gasping of breath, that time corticosteroids will have a good effect. About respiratory arrest, insufficiency and failure. Thank you for listening.